My name is Brian Seabrook, and I'm here to talk to you about Apple's tax strategy. It's recently been in the news a lot, and there's been some misconceptions that have made it sound like Apple actually isn't paying the taxes that they're owed. So I wanted to take a minute to explain the strategy that Apple uses in their global operation. Apple's the largest electronics company in the world. We're all pretty familiar with their products. For example, this is an iPod Touch. They also have iPads, iPhones, etc. In 2012, they had net sales of $156.5 billion, with $100 billion being generated in overseas sales. Their international headquarters is in Cork, Ireland, and it's called Apple Sales International. It is not a U.S. company, and it doesn't pay U.S. corporate taxes. It doesn't pay U.S. corporate taxes because it's legally separated into two separate businesses, one that operates in the United States and one that operates outside of the United States. They specifically chose Ireland because there's a big difference between how the U.S. decides who's a tax resident and how Ireland does, meaning who has to pay corporate taxes to the government. Apple Sales International is incorporated in Ireland, but is managed and controlled from California, which is what creates the tax loophole that actually allows them to pay no corporate taxes to either government. This has allowed them to save about $74 billion since 2009. My information comes from Apple's annual reports, Fox Business, Reuters, and CNBC News. Let's examine the first step in Apple's tax strategy. They're legally separated into Apple Inc., which operates in the U.S., and Apple Sales International, which operates outside of the United States. Apple Sales International handles all sales outside of the United States and doesn't have to pay U.S. taxes on them because they're incorporated in Ireland. This unit accounts for about 60% of Apple Corporation's annual sales. Because it's not in the United States, it doesn't have to pay taxes, even though its parent company is an American firm. Now let's take a look at why Apple organizes the company this way. The US and Ireland have very different ways of deciding who's a tax resident and who isn't. In the United States, a company is a tax resident and has to pay taxes to the US if they're incorporated within the United States. However, in Ireland, a company only has to pay corporate taxes if they're managed and controlled from within Ireland. So Apple strategically incorporated in Ireland, but purposely manages and controls the company from California, giving themselves the tax loophole of having no tax residency. Now let's take a look at what Apple actually does pay. The top corporate tax rate in the United States is 35%. In 2012, Apple says they paid a 25% rate. The U.S. operation for Apple generated about $56 billion in sales, which means they paid about $14 billion in taxes. Apple Sales International technically is tax exempt because they have no tax residency, but they did agree to pay a 2% corporate tax rate to the Irish government. This unit generated about $100 billion worth of sales for Apple, and only had to pay about $2 billion in taxes. So let's summarize. Apple operates as two separate companies. They have Apple Inc., which operates in the United States, and an international headquarters called Apple Sales International that operates solely outside of the United States. The international unit accounts for about 60% of the total sales for the company every year. And on that 60%, they only have to pay 2% in taxes because of where it's located. The U.S. government claims that this has saved Apple about $74 billion in would-be tax payments since 2009, but have also concluded that this practice is completely legal. So I hope that you've learned something new about Apple's tax strategy and how, although they are in a way avoiding taxes, does not mean that they're not paying the taxes that are actually owed. Thank you for your time.